When we keep the presence of Ishvara in our awareness, by knowing all that is here is Ishvara. What is within, what is outside is but Ishvara. And this is very difficult because one is carried away by one's own habitual anxiety, alienation, and survival instinct. Like this, a number of factors keep us away from the presence of Ishvara. First, it is not knowing the nature of Ishvara, that everything here is Ishvara, is not known. And in spite of one's understanding, to whatever degree, understanding of this fact, one struggles to keep that fact in one's awareness. It's not an intimate knowledge. Something denies that intimate knowledge, assimilated knowledge, which we call nishtha. And what denies is our own unconscious and also the instinctual, certain urges for survival and so on. And they keep us away from the awareness. Individuality is there. So individuality within the fold of Ishvara, that's where the problem lies. Within the fold of the total samashti Ishvara, there is an individual. Ishvara is pervasive of this body, mind, sense complex and everything else. All means and ends are Ishvara. And this individuality within Ishvara is a fact, and it can be a denying factor, a factor that denies the assimilated knowledge of the fact of everything being Ishvara, called nishtha. Because to be an individual, you must have a certain identity, different from every other entities in this world. And therefore, this self-identity goes along with an instinct for this organism's survival. And that instinct confines to this physical body and mind-sense complex. And therefore, this carving out of this entire world, a status for oneself, the status that gives me an individuality. Well, that is a fact, and that fact can be standing against my awareness of everything being Ishvara. Therefore, it is critical for us to understand a few things at least, to practice, and so that this awareness will be there for us always. Here we have an advice given by the Gita. And this also is in our attitude. In the Indian spiritual culture, there is a prevalent attitude, an attitude of accepting gracefully as prasada, as we had mentioned before. In this value structure, this is told, nityam samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu. It is very peculiar to our culture. Ishta upapattihi, ishta praptihi, ishtasya prapti. Prapti means gain. Ishta is what one likes, what one desires for. This is called ishta. Prapti is a gain. So, ishtasya praptihi, in the wake of something that you wanted, it's gained, in the wake of which there is a certain response on the part of the individual. One responds to a situation which is in keeping with what one loves to have, what one worked for, what one desires. To this one responds. The response is pointed out here as samatvam. Elsewhere it was said samatvam, here it is said samachittatvam. It's an explanation. Samachittatvam. Chitta is mind, my response in terms of my attitude, which is mental. And this attitude, in my response to what I like, is more or less the same. Understand this? More or less the same to the response same response to what I don't like, in the wake of what I don't want. There is a response. Between these two responses, more or less there is a certain sameness, certain similarity. This is called samatva. How one can respond the same way? When one knows exactly what is there is what I like. I work for something, expecting something, and something that I like has come. To this I have to respond. My response is going to be one of elation. And how this elation is going to be compared with my response to what I don't like, in the wake of what I don't like. My response to what I don't like, in the wake of which my response is going to be what? One of disappointment. Then in the wake of disappointment there is regret, guilt, hurt, sorrow. So there is a whole trail afterwards. It's all consequential. But what is first is disappointment. How this is going to compare well with my elation? How can these two responses be the same, in other words? Samatvam. It's all verbal. It is easy to say, respond the same way in the wake of what is likable and what is not liked also. The same way. It is easy to command. It is easy to advise anybody. Respond the same way to what you like and what you don't like. How? If I am totally blind, I cannot respond. If I don't, totally blind means I don't recognize what is happening, then I cannot respond at all. I don't need to respond. But what I recognize is not what I like or what I like. So the response is a natural consequence to my knowledge. And otherwise it would be inappropriate response. Something good happens, I sit the same way as something I am indifferent to. I don't care what is happening, not is happening. And what I don't like is happening. What I like is happening. What will people say? In America and other places, there is something wrong with him. In India, they will say, "ये तो बड़ा ज्ञानी है, ये पहुंच गया महात्मा है." Because in our culture, this concept of samatvam being there, They think if you respond like this, means no response. And they think that perhaps the fellow has gained some state. There is no state. We have to say more or less. Otherwise it is wrong. More or less the same way. Ishtam prapya na abhinandati. Anishtam prapya na dveshti. In the wake of Ishta doesn't get elated, ecstatic. He's able to absorb this happy situation in a containable manner, in a contained manner. And Anishta also in a contained manner. Doesn't get immediately depressed. Takes it in his stride. If not happily, it's not possible. With okay attitude. More or less the same. This is called samatvam. Ishta, anishta upapattishu nityam, always samachittatvam. This is not possible. This will remain always an advice, an ideal. You can write and keep it in front of you. If you write anything and keep it in front of you, it will be ever an ideal. You will be always different from it. The actual is always different from the ideal. You keep it in front of you because you know that it is not possible for you. This is ideal actual difference. It's not a matter for idealizing something. It is assimilating it properly. Even what I say, this more or less the same, is not possible unless we bring in Ishvara. You have to bring in Ishvara here. Next line of advice in the Gita is Mayi ananya yogena avyabhicharini bhakti. Beautiful. The presence of Ishvara has to be brought in here. How? It's very simple. I know it is given to me to do. I also know I don't have any say over the result. The result is taken care of. I can plan, I can do, I can expect. The result is taken care of. When the result happens, it may be, as I said before, equal to my expectation, more or less, or even opposite. Samatvam is to all of them samatvam. My response is more or less the same. How it can be the same? Because I am not karma phala data. I know this well. I am not karma phala data. I am not the producer of the result of action, the creator of the result of action. The result of action is taken care of by the laws. The laws that may include the law of karma too. The laws that are not separate from the Lord, the laws which are of the Lord, not separate from the Lord. And therefore, I have in my awareness this recognition that the result is from the Lord. Correct? The result is from the Lord. And therefore, we have in our culture a certain attitude to what comes as a result of my action. As some kind of, especially if it is good, we say, "Ye to Bhagavan ka anugrah hai." We say this all the time. If it is anishta, if it is not to my liking, I don't say that. And here, we are asked to say that. Why? Because the results of action, whatever, whether we like or don't like, is always from Ishvara. In our culture, we have one thing, an attitude to what comes from Ishvara. What comes from Ishvara, as I had told before, is prasada, correct? From the altar, whatever comes, it may be a tulsi leaf, or water, or vibhuti, or kunkumam, or laddu, it is prasada. What comes from the Lord is prasada. And we recognize in our culture, a child is a gift from the Lord, and therefore we give the name of the Lord in one form or the other. Or even we say, this is Lord's Prasad, Shiva Prasad, Rajendra Prasad. We say this, Guru Prasad, Rama Prasad, Krishna Prasad. Prasad means what? No question. Glad acceptance. Ishtam, glad acceptance. We are able to absorb that. Anishtam, prasad. May not be with a smile, the acceptance, but prasad. We have a shock absorber. Practice. This is practice. Nityam samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatyasya. Thank you.
Guru Seva